Hello. Recently, Yes, California has been covered by multiple news agencies, and people are talking about how we got started. It's the year 2020, and they're trying to reference events back to 2014 and 2012. So let me clear up the air and make sure people have the correct understanding of how Yes, California got started. So in 2011, I wrote the book, California's Next Century. In 2012, that book was published by Mikazuki Publishing, and it got a fair amount of fame. In 2013, Tom Elias wrote the first article about California acting as a nation or being like a nation, and that was about California's next century. Now, at that time, in the book, I didn't say secession. I, in fact, said don't secede. What I talked about was California could act like a nation and take over immigration, trade, many policy powers left to the federal government, kind of the way it's doing now. I said this in 2012, and then California now is acting like it's taking over trade and health and many other federal policy arenas. I said that in 2012, just keep doing that and do more of it. And internationally, a term for that is subnational sovereignty, as seen with certain sub-governments. I never said secession. I thought it was unworkable in 2012 and in the book. Now, 2014, I met Louis Marinelli. He saw the articles. He found me. We built Sovereign California together in 2014. And I was insistent to Louis that we sell subnational sovereignty and we never say secession. And we did that for 2014. And we did that in 2015. And what we found, Louis and I and Sam and Stuart and Mike and Bart Gilbert. Miss you, Bart. We found that when we were traveling around California, in the Bay Area, in Sacramento, in Los Angeles, in San Diego through 2014 and 2015, that when we said subnational sovereignty, people didn't know what we were talking about. They had trouble understanding the concept. And then they would walk up and go, do you mean secession? And we'd kind of coyly go, no, I don't mean secession. I mean sort of a quasi-independence. And they just walk off. Then we just started experimenting, just out of giggles and frustration. And somebody go, you don't mean secession, do you? And we go, yeah, we do. And some people were mad. But then some people who had kind of like a quirky, you're crazy face on would suddenly go, and they'd smile. And so when we were trying to sell subnational sovereignty through 2014 and 2015, as I outlined in the book in 2011 and 12, we were not getting anywhere. And then people had this smile when we said secession. And so it was Louis's idea. Hey, I'm noticing that whenever we travel around saying subnational, people go, do you mean secession? They seem confused. To the people, 80% of them that we say, yes, we do. They smile, and suddenly they're interested. So maybe we should just say secession. We started doing that around 2015, and it worked. I mean, our crowds got huge. We were in the news. We were in the print. We were on TV. Now, not everybody liked it, but people knew what we were talking about. So, Yes, California started with my book, California's Next Century, which was against secession and for subnational sovereignty. In 2014, we started Sovereign California, which was against secession and for sovereignty. We moved away from those things because we got no traction with Californians. We took our tent up and down California. Nobody got it. We started saying secession. Suddenly people said, yeah, what are you talking about? You know, in 2015, we grew to 10,000 members. And we got on San Diego TV and Sacramento TV. And we were in LA Times the moment we started saying secession. So it was because of the people of California smiling when we were not saying secession that we said, try that. And it was because when we tried it, we had incredible success. Thousands of members, all sorts of media within a year. And so I don't want people to think that we were always on board with secession. We were against the idea. I was against the idea. Now, in 2012, and this is partly what some of the confusion is, I said how California could operate as a nation. Reporters and many people of the public interpret that to mean that in 2012 I said secession. I did not. Never said it, was against it for years. I said subnational sovereignty. But subnational sovereignty was a way where California could take on all federal powers except for the dollar and military. So just think about that for a second. I didn't say secession. All right. No, that's crazy talk. I said California take over every federal power that it ever wants till its heart desires except for the dollar and military. That means climate change, immigration, trade, healthcare, borders, you name it. That's really close to secession. So if you want to call that not fair or fair, whatever. It's called subnational sovereignty. It is what I proposed. It's damn close to secession, although no, it's not technically secession, and no, I never said that until Yes, California as a group decided to move in that direction. And we only did that after we talked to the California public and they were confused. And then when we started toying with secession, they had smiles. And then when we said secession, it was incredible growth within months. That told us that Californians want to hear the word secession. And that's when we pivoted to that. I did not originally say that, but I did lay out how California could operate as an independent nation. And I did talk about how California likes to ignore federal laws in my book. But I didn't technically say secession. That idea came about through marketing experimentation. Now in 2016, 2017, I did leave Yes, California for a few months. I joined the California Freedom Coalition. That's in the news. Some people, yes, don't like me bringing that up, but that's in the news. The reporters know that. They ask me about it. I can't not acknowledge that because that's well known. It's in the news that I left Yes, I went to CFC, I left CFC and returned to Yes, and then I took over the presidency. So I have to acknowledge that. Now, I made that decision with Lewis. Lewis knew the whole time that the optics were bad, that he was in Russia. I asked him to come back. He couldn't. I left. He called me. He and I had an intense conversation that resulted in the two of us agreeing that it would be best that he leave and that I take over. I have always told people that I consider Lewis my brother, that I wouldn't be here if he didn't show me how to do this, that I learned a lot from him, that he taught me how to market. Now, I thought of all the ideas about how California could operate as a nation and the legal mechanisms and the governmental shifting that would need to happen. But Lewis was a marketing master. I learned how to speak to the public because of watching him for 5 years in California. The news is not going to admit that Lewis was here for 5 years. I was there with him. I didn't think he was going to move to Russia permanently. I thought he may go for a few months so that his wife could see her mom. Seems reasonable to me. Everyone I talked to about that said, yeah, of course you should be able to go to Russia if that's where your wife is from and she doesn't get to see her mom. So that's what he did. It turned into a longer stay. Blah, 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 blah. I asked him to step down. He held on. I left. We talked. Eventually he did step down in agreement with me. And that's the real story. So if a reporter says that I said secession from the beginning, I did not. I said nation. And I pointed out how you could do it without secession. We never went to secession for years, and we only did after it seemed overwhelming that that's what got people's attention in California. And the fact that we grew really fast in 2016, the moment we switched over to Yes, California and started doing it, and the news started paying attention, proves that the people of California and the news media were paying attention to secession and not subnational sovereignty. All documented. So that's the facts.